friends. This is Hope Katz Gibbs with Incandescent Radio and Incandescent TV. Thrilled to introduce the newest show on Incandescent Radio and TV, Courage to Thrive, with Reverend Dr. Robert D. Flanagan, also known as Father Bob. So welcome to your show, Episode 1.
Thanks, Hope. It's great to be here. I'm really excited about all of this and really having the opportunity to speak to folks about the ways to thrive, the courage that it can take for people to do that at times, and also just have really kind of honest and interesting conversations.
Yeah, your guest lineup is so fascinating. I can't wait to share this with the world. But first, let's tell everyone about you. An esteemed Episcopal priest and author, Father Bob has dedicated his life to spiritual transformation and caring for others. With a profound connection to his faith and an unwavering commitment to helping those in need, he has touched countless lives through his ministry, writings, and teachings. Your book, Letters of an Unexpected Mystic, was a 2023 Selah Book Award finalist in the Bible study category. You tell the world that writing has always been a cornerstone of your spiritual practice, and since the early 2000s, you've delivered hundreds of sermons, crafted poignant poetry, which you shared at Elaine's Literary Salon, which is where we met here in Alexandria, Virginia, and you've published numerous articles in the fields of Christian spirituality and evangelism. Through your writings, Father Bob seeks to illuminate the faith from despair to hope, encouraging readers to discover their true selves and deepen their spiritual awareness, which is so remarkable. So let's jump into these books that are featured behind me. So tell us, what led you to the path to create these two?
Courage to Thrive, the first one, which is a lighter colored book cover, it was the pandemic, and I was thinking through the ways which people were struggling at that time. And I was also kind of keenly aware of my own struggles, which really came to light to me. Really, I kind of look at it as something that happened over a long period of time, and then yet in the fall of 2000, I found myself really struggling, and I was at seminary. The seminary is not far from here, a couple miles west, and it was something that nobody talks about. Certainly in the early 2000s, people didn't talk about suicidal ideation. People were just rather kind of sweep it under the rug. Nobody know about it, and nobody know that anybody in their family had struggled with this. And so what I felt was to kind of help people understand that it can happen to anybody. And even if you're projecting out that your life is all put together, to be able to step back and say, actually, it's not. And so I was a first year seminarian, about 6-8 weeks into seminary, studying to become a priest. People had sent me off to seminary, the church that I was at in New York, and with lots of praise and adulation and a lot of hope, sending me off there. And I found, a few weeks later, really struggling, and something that had been kind of in the background and not really debilitating in any ways, all of a sudden was. And I didn't know what to do with all these feelings and all this feelings of depression and anxiety that had just started to happen, and found myself in this place of, what I really kind of liken it to, and I liken it to in the book, is this place of akin to what Dante Alighieri wrote about in his Inferno, that it came to the midpoint of his life and found himself in a dark woods and lost. And I felt that I was on that journey, a journey from being lost to finding out how to kind of come out of all of that and to thrive again was is was what I was drawing on for the story for Courage to Thrive, and all of its devotions and kind of exercises and things that I lay out in that book. So it was really it was really a time that was a turning point, and then in 2019 I felt bringing that out, or no, excuse me, in 2020 bringing that back out, and being able to reflect on that myself was really helpful for me personally, and putting into writing, and then to hear from people over the years about how much that the the devotions and the prayers and the the sequence of the book has really helped other people.
Yeah, it's really powerful, reading through them and hearing your story and the courage that it took for you to share that, because I would imagine, in your community, like you said, y'all have it together, right? Because you're advising others. So
Yeah.
I think it's really amazing. And your writing is so beautiful and your story is so poetic. So I encourage everyone to pick up these two books. And then the sequel has a lot of activities and thoughtfulness to it.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about how these books were received in the religious community that you live in. Was it questioned? How did it make you feel? And then how people can use these books in their daily life.
Yeah, thankfully that was received well. I think in if I had written it 20 years previously, I think people would have been kind of shocked and struggling. But we had a number of high profile people end their lives by suicide, and it kind of brought everything out to the forefront more. Kind of the attention focused on veteran suicide as well, has has also kind of shed the light, and we've worked and in my work at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So I say we is because I have volunteered for them for a very very long time in a lot of different capacities, and that work has helped bring to light and normalize the pain and struggle that people go through in all of this, and so it makes them it it makes people receive this in a way that's been accepting and open. And the second book, the Bible study, is really a way of diving into understanding oneself better, in and so that we in doing so understand our relatedness to each other and to the world, and in doing so it helps us know ourselves better, right, and be able to discover the best parts of ourselves.
Yeah, especially now, right? When
Yeah.
everything is topsy-turvy. I love the introduction to this book, the Finding Joy in the Midst of Mental Health Struggles,
Hmm.
from the Chief Medical Officer and the VP of Mission Engagement at the American Federation of Suicide Prevention. What they write, these two women, it's really powerful and makes people feel like, to me, it's you permission to struggle,
Hmm.
permission to question, and permission to be in the depths of like Dante, as he was walking through all of that. That's such a powerful metaphor. I study a lot of Martha Beck's work, and she talks a lot about Dante and his Inferno and how we all are going through this. Midlife seems to be that trigger.
Hmm.
As you're questioning backward, forward, what does that
Right.
look like? And I
Right.
love talking to you for that insight, that wisdom, because your work, the books are so grounded and based in history and the
Hmm.
scriptures. So tell me, religion is sort of like people are less religious now, less attending church and synagogue and other things. So what's your perspective on that, and how can these books help, even if you don't want to come in and go to a traditional formal service?
Right, right. I think what's interesting is what's happened is like a lot of things. This is not um, we're at the point today based on decades of change. That the change that we're feeling so rapidly coming upon us has really been building for a long time. We the Christian, it was noted in the 1930s that Christianity was kind of beginning in a period of decline, and yet people look at the 1960s or the 1950s as this time of people were very, church was, many churches were growing and thriving and building additional buildings, and that was same as with synagogues and other houses of worship. And yet we went through this period, and I think it was driven by World War II, is that people came back from, the soldiers and nurses, and people came back, and they wanted to settle down, and they joined things. They joined things in their community. So it was church, and it was the Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary and Farmers of America, and all these kind of local institutions that were around in every small town. And so we went through that period, and what I would say is that that period was an anomaly to a longer trend of worldwide, where people were becoming less adhering to traditional institutions. And so we're now at this place where we look around and think, okay, they're the baby boom generation and several others weren't big joiners, really, and it certainly has become, I don't know, more exasperated with the younger generations, and just they just aren't, our world isn't set up in a way to allow for that kind of joining and being involved in local institutions in the same way as it was in the past, and yet those institutions still provide a lot of foundational good to the communities. We have to acknowledge that not all of these communities have provided good at all times, particularly the church, right? And the church has struggled to act appropriately. Its church leaders act appropriately, enough of them all the time. And we're held to a high standard, and not everyone has kept that high standard. And the church has suffered for that. That has also been added upon it. And that's everything from sexual abuse of children and adults that are vulnerable, to misuse of funds and the like. I mean, the list is long. So how do we put faith in those institutions? And it's really kind of re-engaging with local leaders that have integrity and finding them, again, and not kind of worrying about the greater. But these books are a way for people to have their own self journey, and in that self journey, maybe that leads them to a religious institution, maybe it doesn't, but regardless, it gives people and the readers an opportunity to engage with their own spirituality and discover that without the pressure per se of joining an institution.
Yeah, and I love that, and I appreciate that, because it's expansive, right? In your personal relationship with God, or most importantly yourself, right? To
Mhm.
maintain and manage that integrity, right? That's a me deciding thing,
Yeah.
irregardless of what's going on around me. And that takes maturity and wisdom and guidance, right? So that is where
Mhm.
we're turning to you in the Courage to Thrive show. So you're going to be interviewing some really amazing folks. Tell us
Mhm.
who's coming up on your guest list.
So first, we're going to have Karen Swallow Pryor, who is an author and podcaster, and she took part as one of the contributors to a book that's called While Mortals Sleep, and it's a biography of Phillips Brooks, who is a very, very interesting 19th century person and figure. a very famous preacher, known throughout the country and even throughout the world at that time period, and was also significant and known a lot by his what he thought was his children's hymn, which has become a beloved Christmas carol called "O Little Town of Bethlehem." And so Karen has written a fabulous chapter in that book on the hymn, and I'm first looking forward to discussing all of that and kind of opening up the real artistry that is in that hymn. So one we will be bringing that out right before Christmas, and so those that are kind of wanting to hear what goes into the writing of a hymn and how it comes about and the story, that stay tuned, because that we'll talk about that at length. Others will include a dear friend of mine, a priest and psychotherapist, Dr. Charlie Mayer, and he is a fabulous psychotherapist based out of New York City. And we're going to talk about the role of Christian leaders and lay or ordained in the rite of exorcism, which has been a course that I've been teaching this fall, and we've affectionately called it at times the Introduction to the Defense of the Dark Arts, for those Harry Potter lovers. And it is so this will be the culmination of that class, and we will be on campus recording this with my students in attendance, and we will be talking about the challenges and the real care that can be provided by the rite of exorcism. So we're gonna open it all up and let people take a look at it later on. So that'll be coming out in January, and then we have this time period. And I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself too much, but we have upcoming the ordination, the installation of the latest Archbishop of Canterbury, a fabulous person. A bit of controversy around it because she's the first woman to be holding the seat, the See of Canterbury, for the Anglican Communion and the Church of England. And so we will be talking. I hope that we will be talking to those involved in that service, and be able to give people an insight about what is all of this and why does it matter to folks in America.
This is so exciting. We're going to teach people to thrive inside and outside.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to introduce us all to things that we really don't have access to. Hymns and the Archbishop of Canterbury. How cool is that? And then the dark arts. So
Yes.
And that's just the next 3 episodes. I can't wait.
Yeah, all over the place, right?
No,
All over the place is what goes on, rattles around in my head. So
well,
yeah,
and it's important, to give people a landscape, and that's what we try and do here at Incandescent, and give people a little taste of a lot of things that they may not have access to. So we are thrilled to have you be part of the Incandescent family on Incandescent Radio, Incandescent TV, and all the other channels that we'll be sharing your wisdom and insight with. So thank you, Reverend Bob. We're so excited.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
All of our readers and listeners, stay tuned for the Courage to Thrive show. This is episode 1. Come tune back in later in December, right before Christmas, for episode 2. We'll see y'all soon. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks.